Hello, everybody, and welcome back to my recap. Today, we're on day 2 of the international group stage. So, we had quite a few storylines that developed there. We had some rises, we had some falls. So, let's get into the party. So, first up, we're going to talk about the Team Liquid versus Yandex series. Liquid got a good statement win versus Yandex, winning that game completely out of that one. Showed that they can close the gap to the top. Did only go 2-1, but it showed that they can beat a favorite. For Yandex, yeah, they didn't go so well versus Liquid. They kind of seem a bit out of sorts, I would say, because if they lose control over the matchup, they kind of break down in a weird way, and that's kind of what happened with that, especially versus Liquid right now. The second team that did climb up quite a bit was Aurora, because they did the same thing to Yandex. They beat them out 2-1 as well. Especially interesting was Yandex won the first game where they looked very much in control. Unfortunately for them, though, they lost a lot of control. So Yandex go down 1-2 after these two series, and you gotta make sure that Yandex stock isn't dropping while Aurora can say, hey, at least we beat one contender. And speaking of Aurora, we have Spirit versus Aurora, which was in the first series. Spirit just handled business, went through with a 2-0, just showed up what you really need to have them happen. And as I said, Aurora kind of brought themselves not well there, but they did take their shot in the other series. So that's something. So, well, it works out in a way. But one of the other favorites, Team Vision. Well done this today. They only had one series, but that was a good one for them. Boom Boys played it very nicely up there. They built a good trap in game 2, which they did with Carry Necro and Underlord Pitts locking a lot of the players down, especially Satanic on his Juggernaut got locked down quite a bit. Thanks to that, the game dragged on quite a bit, but Vision found a way through that one. And they didn't need a clean game to do that, but they solved an ugly one, to be honest, with Satanic using Blade Fury to close out the base, especially the Ancient in game number 2. So, I mean, that's kind of an interesting start about that one. And I would say Vision showed why they're the favorites in my eyes for this whole tournament. Boom Boys did quite well, showed that they can really keep up with Vision. But then again, I feel like that's the issue Boom Boys does still have. They can do well in the early mid game, and as soon as we kind of hit the late game, they're in a bad spot often enough. But they'll find a way through this one. I see no issue for them whatsoever. And we talked about Liquid, but their opponent in the second one that they played today was Spirit, and that was a good series. So both teams really did have a chance to do something about that. This was Liquid's proof to really to say, hey, I'm in the favorites club. Unfortunately for them, Spirit said no. They closed the door on that one completely. It was very interesting that Liquid tried to really hamper Yataro in the first 2 games really hard. Didn't work. One game it worked out in their favor, the second one it didn't. And both teams figured something out with that series. They both don't want to play Luna in this international, which is kind of funny because both of them played Luna one game. They lost each. And then they kind of went back to the normal stuff and Spirit closed it out. What we do have to keep in mind, though, tomorrow we have the big heavyweight showdown. We got Spirit versus Vision, and that's going to be the big one we're going to see going on. It's about if you're, I don't know actually, depending on where you are, it's the second round in the series tomorrow. So Chinese time, it's like 7 a.m. No, 7 a.m. is my time. But like I think like 1 or 2 Chinese time. So it's definitely a series you don't want to miss because one of them will not be shown anymore on the group stage. Another big storyline we had on this day today was China going pretty hard down, to be honest. We had XG who kind of put themselves into a bad spot with the first game versus Legion. They went down 0-2. They had Ame with the carry IO experiment, which did not work at all. And that was probably a point where the Chinese fans were panicking pretty much. However, they did catch them. They did catch themselves up with the second game versus Huligani, which they did recover themselves 2-0, got Ahmed back out of the experiment route, and they immediately won out that one. So 2-0 for XG. They avoid the 0-3 bracket, so all good for them. And that is how they want to keep going, hopefully. For the second Chinese team, which was Vici Gaming, they had the first game versus Huligani because they are in the same group right now, the Group B. Well, this is actually the last day we really have the groups, but it is what it is. And they dropped game one versus them. They should have probably won that one. Then they stabilized, got out of 2-1. So Vici does like causing the Chinese fans a lot of worry. So that happened there. Vici had a second game as well in this bracket right now. So they had Gamer Legion, who just beat out Extreme Gaming before that. So Gamer Legion were kind of on a trajectory to become like a China killer run, but it didn't work out that well for them in the end. They did win game one because VG, as XG did, experimented with the IO. They experimented with having an off-flame IO, which was very awkward to be honest. But after that, as it failed, they got back on the normal stuff and stopped Gamer Legion's run of knocking Chinese teams down. So Vici moves up to the 2-1 bracket as well, so they're kind of happy with that one. Gamer Legion had a good run. They at least avoided it being immediately eliminated, so they're now at the 1-3 point. So it can work out for them, let's be honest. And the one team out of China we can't forget is Team Resilience. They played OG. Resilience is kind of like a mixed bag in my mind. They did beat out OG, so they are fine with that one. On the other hand, I'm like, what are you guys doing here? Actually, they did take a game off. Vision, which I'm still surprised about to this time. I don't know what Vision did that game, but they lost one game versus Team Resilience, and well, at least they're looking better now. So we got the Chinese teams at 1-2. We got a Chinese team at 2-1 and another one at 1-2, and they managed to avoid each other in the third great game. So that's actually a positive part. And at least one will be in the elimination phase. So let's see how this one goes. And then we had some crazy stuff, to be honest, that happened here. We had Iron Wings versus Falcons, where we had a remaster of Falcon's obsession with Divine Rapiers after yesterday, the game versus Vision, where we had a lot of Divines in the game, in the third game. They got back on this one, so the first game, Snapfire Mid had a Divine Rapier for Malrin. They tried to demolish buildings, kind of lost the base rate thing, so that one was a bit of a wonky game, gotta be honest. Iron Wing decided, you know what, we saw game one, you went some insane things, Falcons. We're gonna answer that. They went with the first Arc Warden of this tournament in the mid lane as well. So BZM went with Arc Warden. Both gimmicks unfortunately failed, so both sides went back to mostly their normal shenanigans. Iron Wings did pull out the carry IO once again for Pure, but he found a way back in there, so kind of interesting. He went with the right click carry IO, and that won the game. He went 13-3 and 17, so he went pretty much off. And with that, they do move up to the 2-1 bracket, so they have a chance to go into the whole final thing. They have a chance on that 4-1 spot, but you got to keep an eye out for how that one goes, especially now. Another matchup I want to highlight here is the Nigma versus LGD game. It was the Samael versus Thompson Old Guard matchup. On other teams now, or at least Thompson is not on OG, so that's a bit off that one. Nigma already got rid of them there. LGD tried Thompson mid Ricky, which was very interesting, and the carry Necro. It didn't come together, and Nigma kind of weathered it out, got out 2-0. So Nigma, despite me being quite down on them, are having quite a good run. They could make it into the elimination bracket quite nicely, but I'm not too sure about them still. They look quite fine, but I think when the bigger teams come around, they're going to falter pretty heavily. What I didn't notice quite a bit, to be honest, about this tournament right now is that Necrophos has been moving away from the offlane. The only team that really loves to keep employing the offlane Necrophos is Falcons right now. Most of the other teams have been starting to slot this Necrophos into the position 1. It's not been in the big teams right now because the only big team that really has employed that yet is the Boom Boys. But every other team kind of in the lower region has thrown out the Necro position 1 at least once in this tournament already. So kind of interesting to see how the Necrophos develops from that one. Another character whose stock I feel like is pretty hard falling is the Luna. She's she had Liquid and Spirit trying her out, didn't work out for either of them. Then they went away and just said, "Okay, we're not doing that anymore." At the same time, Kez and Drow are moving up quite nicely right now. Drow has been one of the top carries in this whole meta right now. So, despite a lot of people saying this is a more of a strength based meta right now. I mean, the offline is mainly strength based, but we've been starting to see Drow pop up being banned. Phantom Lancer is most of the time out of it, but he hasn't had really moments where he really shown as well. So for day number 3, I would say we have like two for the whole tournament important matchups, which I will feel like you should watch definitely. One is of course the Team Vision versus Team Spirit matchup. That's the matchup you want to watch because you want to see who gets the 4-0, who has the rest of the days off till the bracket stage. Of course, the race to the airport, OG versus Huligani, who goes home now. And then I would say it's going to be kind of interesting to see how Iron Wings answer now Team Leko, because right now Iron Wings have been slowly creeping up. I did say yesterday that Falcons were, in my eyes, a team that is knocking on the door to get up there. But now, after what happened with them versus Iron Wings does deserve the same shot, to be honest. So we'll see how that one develops out of there. And maybe Enigma can surprise me and move up to the 3-1 bracket and get a chance at qualifying for the bracket without even going through the elimination match. We'll have to see. Anyway, that's it from me. Like and subscribe if you want to, and hope to see you guys tomorrow. Bye bye!